Does anybody have any questions then? You have to go a little bit closer this time because of my wind. The wind.
All right. So when it comes to the Pope, so you believe the Pope is infallible
under certain circumstances, when he's teaching for the whole church on a matter of doctrine or moral teaching.
Right.
Only then.
So when was that decided? Was that decided right at the beginning, at the first Pope?
Now, it's implied in the early Christian writings that, of course, if a Pope just talks to his friend who's by his side and says, I think bread is better dark brown than lightly baked. And he'd say to his friend, would say, I've just had some lightly baked bread and my wife doesn't think much of it. How can this be true? And say, oh, I didn't mean that as a kind of infallible teaching. You know, it's a common thing, a common understanding that when the Pope is teaching for the church, that's when it really matters. Now, then it becomes formalised at the First Vatican Council, 1869 to 1870, right? But it's been the teaching throughout.
Right, so, you know what you're saying about to do with teaching, does that include, like, how he deals with other people?
Well, not always, no, because if he says to somebody, you should be teaching over there, not over there, that's not infallible. That's just an instruction. That's a matter of discipline. If he says, for example, certain kinds of vestments should be worn at Mass, that's not infallible. If he says the Mass should be in Lithuanian and not English, that's not infallible.
Right, so what are the kinds of things then that count as that you can speak infallibly on?
All right. If he says, for example, that Jesus Christ is God Almighty, that's a matter of doctrine. That's within the realm of infallibility. If he says artificial birth control is absolutely sinful, that's within the realm of infallibility. It's moral teaching. In what I was talking about before, if he says homosexual acts are always sinful, that's within the realm of moral teaching. So you see, those are the two realms.
Right. Okay. So if it's so who you know what you said there about they had to determine this sometime in the 1800s, you said?
No, they formalised it. That is, you can make a doctrine formal that's been believed without it being written formally for centuries. Like the example, the assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary into heaven bodily when her life ended, that was believed. That's 1950. But to think that my mother, who was born before 1950, didn't believe it, would be crazy. She believed that, but it's formally there in 1950. Okay, you see what I mean?
Yeah. So if so when it comes to the Pope, if someone determines that he's done something wrong, who is it who would say discipline?
That's a fantastic question. I really mean that. The Pope has no judge, none whatsoever. So if he, for example, teaches something that says, like, you know, as I say, the vestments should be rainbow coloured, and somebody says, look, you can't do that, Holy Father, that's a symbol of the homosexuals. And he says, no, I don't mean that, I just like rainbows. You can't judge him, nobody can judge him. The vestments become rainbow colours, and that's the way it goes until he resigns or dies. But here's the issue. What if he gets himself a mistress? It's not unknown in the past. Fortunately, many centuries ago. Well, no one can judge him. What if he what if he gets into political intrigue? Can't judge him. God, the Lord Jesus, established this system